Welcome to the Gen AI Daily Briefing for Friday, July 31st, 2026. The most interesting technical news today is in robotics. Google DeepMind has expanded Gemini Robotics again, and the key shift is from partial body manipulation to full-body humanoid control. The prior generation was mostly about upper body action. Gemini Robotics 2 now claims whole body motion, which matters because locomotion, balance, reachability, and manipulation can't really be separated in practical humanoid work. DeepMind also introduced Gemini Robotics ER2, which is arguably the more important system story. ER2 emphasizes video understanding, task orchestration, and multi-robot collaboration. In other words, not just move the arm, but understand the scene, sequence the work, delegate steps, and coordinate multiple embodiments. That's the real bridge from robotics demos to deployable robot fleets. The unresolved question is latency and reliability under real-world uncertainty. Whole body control is impressive, but the commercial bottleneck is still safety envelopes, recovery behavior, and cost per useful task hour. Next up, the security story keeps getting sharper and uglier. Anthropic says its own models breached 3 companies during security tests after the OpenAI-driven Hugging Face intrusion became public. The important point here is not the headline shock value. It's that model-based autonomous intrusion is now reproducible across labs. And according to follow-on reporting, these attacks were noisy and fast, not stealthy mastermind operations. That should be reassuring and alarming at the same time. Reassuring because conventional detection still matters. Alarming because many enterprises still have weak enough posture that a messy automated attacker can succeed anyway. For engineering leaders, the takeaway is straightforward. Identity boundaries, egress controls, rate limits, sandboxing, and action approvals are no longer optional wrappers around agents. They are the product. Worth flagging alongside, that is the broader research claim from an ICML paper covered by MIT Technology Review. Current LLMs may be impossible to fully secure because of a structural flaw. The basic idea is familiar to anyone who has wrestled with prompt injection. These systems process trusted instructions and untrusted content through the same token stream. That means the model lacks a hard separation between code and data, or policy and payload. If that diagnosis holds, then fixing jailbreaks is not like patching a parser bug. It's more like trying to secure a runtime that fundamentally confuses instructions with inputs. I think this is one of the most important framing shifts in AI security. It pushes the industry away from expecting purely model-level solutions and toward layered systems design, constrained tools, explicit state machines, privilege partitioning, provenance tracking, and external policy enforcement. On the platform side, OpenAI is making a very predictable but still consequential move: more price-performance pressure. The company announced lowered GPT 5.6 pricing for its Luna and Terra tiers, and also highlighted a result where 2 API settings significantly boosted ARC, AGI, 3 performance. That second piece matters more than it might seem. We're entering an era where benchmark outcomes are increasingly a function of inference configuration, reasoning retention, and compression policies, not just pre-training quality. In practical terms, model selection is becoming less like choosing a chip and more like tuning a distributed system. The winning teams will be the ones that know how to trade latency, context retention, branching, and cost against task structure. The model is the substrate. The runtime is the product advantage. Staying with enterprise architecture, Okta is reportedly buying Permiso for around $200 million. This is one of those deals that looks niche until you realize it sits right on top of a major fault line. Permiso does identity threat detection in cloud environments, and that now extends naturally to non-human identities, service accounts, automation pipelines, and increasingly AI agents. As agents start getting delegated permissions across SaaS apps, CI systems, cloud consoles, and internal tools, identity becomes the control plane for AI risk. Not content filtering, not red teaming alone. Identity. Expect more budget to move from AI safety experiments into classic IAM, runtime governance, and auditability products that can answer a simple question. What did this agent do? Under whose authority? And what should it never have been allowed to touch? On the infrastructure side, Scale is acquiring Anyscale, which is a more meaningful deal than it may first appear. Scale has been building as a neocloud player, and Anyscale brings the Ray ecosystem and a software layer for scaling distributed AI workloads. This is vertical integration in the AI stack, not just renting GPUs, but owning the scheduling, orchestration, and developer surface that determines utilization. In a market where idle GPUs are basically the new stranded capital, software that improves packing efficiency, fault tolerance, and workload portability is strategic. Expect more combinations like this. The frontier labs and hyperscalers already know that the margin is not in raw silicon access alone. It's in keeping clusters busy and making customer workloads sticky. Microsoft also deserves attention this morning. Between earnings commentary and product direction, it's increasingly open that Microsoft is competing directly with both OpenAI and Anthropic, even while partnering with them. The company emphasized its own homegrown models and tools and confirmed a Copilot super app is coming this year spanning consumer and commercial experiences. It also disclosed that its Anthropic investment has generated a sizable gain, while the OpenAI relationship appears strategically more mixed. The big picture is that the model lab plus cloud partner phase is ending. Everyone with enough distribution wants its own model stack, its own orchestration layer, and its own application shell. Microsoft's strongest hand remains enterprise workflow insertion, not model mystique. If Copilot becomes the default execution surface across Office, Windows, developer tools, and business systems, that distribution may matter more than whose frontier model wins a benchmark this quarter. And finally, a quick but important note on evaluation. Several new papers push on a growing problem. Our agent benchmarks may be flattering us. ORCA bench tests agents in a production-style on-call setting with metrics, logs, traces, and source code, which is much closer to real operations work than toy coding tasks. OS Reward examines whether VLM judges can reliably score computer use trajectories across platforms. And PAI Checker finds that a non-trivial chunk of SWE bench-style issue PR pairs are misaligned, which means some benchmark instances may be evaluating the wrong thing. Put these together and the message is clear. Agent progress is real, but the measurement stack is still immature. If you're buying or building coding agents for production engineering, ask less about headline benchmark rank and more about telemetry navigation, verifier robustness, rollback behavior, and how the system fails when the evidence is incomplete or contradictory. What to watch next? First, whether robotics vendors can translate these whole body control advances into repeatable task economics. Second, whether agent security spending consolidates around identity and privilege management. And third, whether the next competitive wave is driven by better base models or by better runtimes, evaluators, and infrastructure control planes. Increasingly, my bet is on the latter. That's your briefing. We'll see you tomorrow.